There are three pretty big mistakes when drafting running backs I'm seeing people make in the early, middle, and late rounds. I'm hopefully going to try to save you from making the same mistake. Starting in the early rounds, there is no reason to be taking Kyren Williams over Chase Brown. Now, I've been drafting on Underdog in the live stream every night, and people there have this correct. I've actually loved drafting Kyren Williams at the beginning of round 4 because he's an exciting player at that cost. However, whenever I collected the ADP in Sleeper, ESPN, and Yahoo redraft leagues for the free 2025 ADP consensus sheet we posted on flogfantasy.com, I found that, Chase Brown's a late third round pick in ESPN drafts. However, Kyren Williams goes in the late second round. Kyren Williams and Chase Brown are kind of back-to-back picks in Sleeper and Yahoo, but overall, you actually do have, on average, Kyren Williams getting drafted ahead of Chase Brown. If you look at my rankings on flogfantasy.com, I don't even have them in the same tier. Right now on the site, you will actually see that the average ranking of Chase Brown is the RB9 and the average ranking of Kyren Williams is the RB14. Now, I'm closer than that because, full transparency, Kyren Williams is an exciting player in fantasy football. If you look over the past 2 years, Kyren Williams has been the only bell cow running back in the NFL. That's crazy to say, but I mean, hell, we can even see it in 2024. The dude averaged 88% of the snaps for the Los Angeles Rams, which was the number one mark across all running backs in the NFL. And if you go to the player comparison on flogfantasy.com, this is free. You can actually look at the time frame 2023 and 2024 combined and see during those 2 years, he averaged 87% of the snaps for the Los Angeles Rams, which was also number one in the NFL. Now, during this time period, he was also at the very top in fantasy points at 18.8. He was fourth in the NFL. He was near the top with his rushing metrics, third in the NFL in rushing attempts a game, fourth in the NFL in rushing yards per game, and number one in the NFL with rushing yards inside the 5-yard line, which is absolutely massive because obviously you need that goal line roll to have that touchdown upside. Now, there's a big glaring weakness, however, with Kyren Williams and why you shouldn't be taking him ahead of Chase Brown, and that is going to be the receiving usage. Now, if you compare Kyren Williams and Chase Brown, their 2024 seasons next to each other, you'll see that Chase Brown did average more targets per game, 4.06 in comparison to Kyren at 2.5. You'll see Chase Brown averaged 22 receiving yards per game in comparison to Kyren Williams at 11, but Kyren still outscores him in fantasy points. That's not the full picture though. What we actually need to do is we need to go into the time frame on flogfantasy.com and look at Chase Brown's second half of this season because you had no Zach Moss. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, Mason, if we're cherry picking stats to make Chase Brown look good, we should probably be doing the same with Kyren Williams, which is fair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at over the past 2 years for Kyren because he did have a better 2023 season than 2024. And if we're looking at the weeks in which Chase Brown was an actual starting running back, he was third in the NFL in targets per game. He was third in the NFL in receiving yards per game, third in the NFL with total yards per game, third in the NFL with his snap rate, and third in the NFL with points per game across all running backs. So we've already seen Chase Brown be a top 3 running back. Now, obviously, just because that happened last season doesn't mean these running backs are guaranteed to do it again this next year. So what we need to do is we need to look at how their situations changed from 2024 to 2025. And what we'll see in the case of Chase Brown is, they draft the running back on day 3 with Taj Brooks, but it doesn't look like Zach Moss is a threat right now. Zach Moss isn't even really at training camp practicing. He's still on the NFI list. With Kyren Williams, obviously, they took a running back in Blake Corum in round 3 last year. They followed it up with a Jarquez Hunter pick on day 3 of the NFL draft this season, which is concerning for one reason, and that is Jarquez Hunter is going to be the receiving back in this offense. We can maybe assume that he's going to be on the field for obvious passing down scenarios where Kyren Williams has been a very ineffective receiver. Not only was he 23rd in the NFL in targets per game, but he was 41st in the NFL in receiving yards per game, which just does not cut it if you're in an offense that's an above average passing volume offense like the Los Angeles Rams. So if I'm projecting this out this next season, we've already seen Chase Brown be a better running back than Kyren Williams when he was the starter. And at the same time, we should expect that Kyren doesn't have a path to improve as a receiving back as they kind of had to bring somebody in to solve that issue. If we are going to the range of outcomes tool on flockfantasy.com, you'll see that most year 2 running backs that had a similar season to Chase Brown since the year 2008 averaged about 16 points per game the following season. If you're looking at running backs that had a similar third season to Kyron Williams since 2008, you're looking at about 14 to 15 points per game the following year. Now, full transparency, that doesn't paint the full picture. Obviously, you got to go deeper than that. And also, if you're drafting in a non-PPR league, I'm not going to fault you at all for taking Kyron Williams. What I'm doing in this video, though, and what I do in kind of all our videos, is we gear it for full PPR formats because those are the most popular. I have good news for you, though. We actually created 50 draft guide cheat sheets for every league format and every platform that you can think of. If you go to the recent post on the flockfantasy.com website and you look at Flock 2025 draft sheets, you can pull that up, go to the directory, find your exact drafting platform, find your exact league settings, and you have a custom draft sheet there for you to dominate your 2025 drafts. Can't even tell you how long that we worked on that. And also, we have by far and away the best offer that we've ever done on flockfantasy.com. We just dropped a $34 2025 season pass, where for only $34, you get the draft guides of all the creators on the site. You get all their rankings all season long. That's weekly rankings. That's rest of season rankings. You get unlimited access to all the tools that we have, like the trade finder, the trade calculator, the prospects page. And if you use promo code FLOCK, you are actually going to be getting free start sit questions and free trade questions for me to answer about your team during this season. I'll leave the link to flockfantasy.com in the description and comment section. Fair warning though, this will be the cheapest it ever is. And I promise you we are going to increase the price because realistically, I don't even know if we're profitable offering it at $34. Now let's go over to the next mistake people are making, and that's going to be in the middle rounds, selecting RJ Harvey over Trevion Henderson. Now, if we're looking at each draft platform, it's a little bit different one way or another, but the master ADP does have RJ Harvey getting selected about 4 picks before Trevion. If you're in ESPN drafts, people are preferring Trevion Henderson. In sleeper drafts, people prefer RJ Harvey. In Yahoo drafts, people prefer RJ Harvey. And in underdog drafts, people are preferring RJ Harvey as well. Now, I think both of these running backs are in very, very similar situations where RJ Harvey is going to have to compete with J.K. Dobbins, who we'll talk about at the end of this video, and you have Trevion Henderson having to compete with Ramondre Stevenson. I'm not going to sit here and act like J.K. Dobbins is the most talented running back in the world or Ramondre Stevenson is the most talented running back in the world. In reality, I think both are similar running backs. I think they're about replacement level backs at the NFL level. One very interesting note is the current regime in New England, they did not choose Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson's not their back. They got to town, and what they decided to do is they decided to draft Trevion Henderson at the top of round 2. Whereas this coaching staff that's currently in Denver, they signed off on the J.K. Dobbins selection. So I think that one data point does maybe give us a little indication that we should assume that the coaching staff in Denver maybe likes J.K. Dobbins a little bit more than the coaching staff in New England does. And of course, I'm not making this entire decision just based off that one hunch. The second thing that we have to address is the fact that both of these offenses have a year 2 quarterback, that Vegas is projecting both offenses to be average to above average this next season. And there are a lot of things to like about the running backs in these potential scenarios. So for me, where I think the situations are comparable, I'm going to fall back on who is the better prospect. And if you weren't spending all offseason looking at these rookies, if you're not a diehard dynasty fantasy football player, maybe on the surface, this looks very similar. Where, Trevion Henderson goes in the round 2 of the NFL draft. RJ Harvey goes in round 2 of the NFL draft. And maybe they're about the same prospect profile. That's not the case. If you actually look at the Fantasy Stock Exchange prospect model that's posted on the prospects page of flockfantasy.com, you will see this model has insane results dating back to 2016, that Trevion Henderson has a much, much better list of comps in comparison to RJ Harvey. TreVeyon Henderson scores a 76%, which puts him in line with Jahmyr Gibbs, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Brooks, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Kenneth Walker, as opposed to RJ Harvey at a 69%, which puts him in line with Darius Geis, Antonio Gibson, Byshell Tuten, Cam Akers, Sony Michel, Trey Benson, Rashad White, Devon Achane, and David Montgomery. And if we go back and just look at what NFL talking heads were discussing with these two running backs going into the NFL draft, a lot of people thought TreVeyon Henderson had the talent and the potential to be a round one NFL draft pick. You know what people were saying about RJ Harvey? They were saying that RJ Harvey could go in round 3, but more likely than not, he was maybe going to go at the top of round 4 in the NFL draft. It was almost seen as a great value for TreVeyon Henderson to fall to the Patriots at the top of round 2. And it was seen kind of as a reach for the Denver Broncos to take RJ Harvey at the end of round 2. So for me, I think both running backs are in a very similar spot. I'm going to trust the NFL talent evaluators that were speaking heavily on this rookie class coming in. I'm going to trust the prospect model, and I'm going to take the better running back with TreVeyon Henderson over RJ Harvey, especially with the understanding that I do think RJ Harvey is not going to have as much third down work as what TreVeyon Henderson will, where Henderson was a great receiving back in college. And we can actually go to our next running back comparison between J.K. Dobbins and Najee Harris. Now, I do want to at least get these blurbs out of the way, because right now we actually have this coaching staff coming out in Denver. They're saying, oh, J.K. Dobbins adjusting very well. He has made a swift transition to the Broncos offense. We got reports earlier this offseason that J.K. Dobbins could get work on third down. And a big reason for this is RJ Harvey isn't known to be a great receiving back in terms of pass protection. Now, if we were talking about RJ Harvey versus TreVeyon Henderson as a prospect, I want to at least mention the Amari Hampton elephant in the room. Now, the thing with Amari Hampton is he is not just a very strong running back prospect. He is an elite prospect. This is somebody that has the size to be a bell cow. This is somebody that has an elite athletic profile. This is somebody that had a great receiving workload in college, while at the same time, he has the round 1 NFL draft capital. Anything that you could ever want to see from Amari Hampton has as a prospect. So that's the first thing that I want to address, is that Amari Hampton is way tougher to go up against if you're a running back than RJ Harvey is. The second thing with this is if we are looking at J.K. Dobbins versus Najee Harris at the moment, one is at training camp, one is actually battling for the starting job, and the other is standing on the sideline because he was maybe a little too irresponsible with fireworks on 4th of July, and he has missed the beginning of training camp, allowing Amari Hampton to take those critical reps and allowing Amari Hampton to have that lead over him in camp. And Amari Hampton's probably the better running back. Now, full transparency, I already know what you're going to say with J.K. Dobbins, and J.K. Dobbins lost a lot of steam as the season went on, and that's why I think that people are drafting J.K. Dobbins 4 rounds after Najee Harris in sleeper drafts, 3 rounds after Najee Harris in Yahoo drafts. And yeah, if you go to the player comparison tool on flockfantasy.com, you will see that J.K. Dobbins, his early season workload in comparison to his mid-season workload in comparison to his late season mid workload, I mean, it went down as time went on. He went from 15.1 points per game to 14.5 down to 12.9. Now, with Najee Harris, he's also been on the decline. The difference is it's been over a much, much larger sample. If we look at Najee Harris through his entire NFL career, every single season, his snap rate has gone down. It has gone from 84% to 65% to 53% down to 50%. So both of these running backs are declining vets that you are hoping can win the starting job at the beginning of the season. Maybe you can start them for a couple weeks at the beginning of the year, and they'll transition later in the year to just be premium handcuff backs, where if RJ Harvey were to get injured, then J.K. Dobbins could be a league winner, where if Amari Hampton were to get injured, Najee Harris could be a league winner. The issue with this is if Amari Hampton has those critical reps at the beginning of training camp, with how good of a prospect Amari Hampton is, Najee Harris in your regular ESPN draft probably isn't somebody you can get into your lineup in week 1. He's probably not somebody you can get into your lineup in week 2. So he's transitioning to be more of just a pure handcuff, somebody that you may not be able to start at the beginning of the season the way that you potentially could with J.K. Dobbins, especially if Dobbins gets the receiving role. Now, full transparency, if you're drafting on Underdog Fantasy, the ADPs there stay up to date and it's very, very sharp. You will see J.K. Dobbins already goes well ahead of Najee Harris. And if you don't believe me, just go out to the live stream. I am drafting Underdog drafts literally every single night. And if you can't afford the $34 to flockfantasy.com to get access to the free trade questions, the free start sit questions that we have, and all the draft guide cheat sheets that we are going to be putting out, which it's 50 plus, you can actually get access to all the draft guide cheat sheets with just a $10 deposit to Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. And if you use code FLOCK, you are also going to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. And you can draft with us in the Flock tournaments that Underdog Fantasy is going to be dropping all of August. I think at the very minimum, we are going to have about 15 Flock tournaments this year, which I am very, very excited for. But I think that's all I got for you. I'm going to continue to keep all our rankings updated, both on the website as well as with all the draft guide cheat sheets, and keeping that ADP updated for y'all as well. Again, this is the cheapest it will ever be. We have a $34 one-time fee. If you want to become a member of the Flock on flockfantasy.com, you can get access to all the draft guide cheat sheets, all the draft guides from all the other creators as well, all the rankings during the season, all the tools. If you use promo code FLOCK, you will also get me to answer your start sit questions and your trade questions for free this season. And yes, I will leave the link to flockfantasy.com in the description as well as the comment section if you are interested in becoming a member of the Flock, which I hope you do. And I appreciate you and hope I can draft with you in the live stream later tonight.